With the signing of this new disaster proclamation, public meetings may continue to be held remotely, subject to the requirements of the Public Act 101-0640. And I think the new one has something about hybrid Zoom and in-person meetings. One, standard 48-hour notice, except for an emergency meeting, to all members of the public body, posted at the meeting location and on the public body's website, and provided to any news media that has requested notice. The notice agenda must include the remote access information on it, and the agenda must state in person, if in-person attendance is allowed at any remote hybrid meeting. During the meeting, participating members must be verified and must be able to hear one another, as well as hear all discussion and testimony. During open meetings, members of the public who are present at the meeting location of the public body must be able to hear all discussion, testimony, and votes of the members of the body. If attendance at the regular meeting location is not feasible due to the disaster, alternative arrangements must be made, and notice of the meeting must include the arrangements that will provide live public access to hear all parts of the open meeting, phone number or link to Zoom, etc. At least one member of the public body, the chief legal counsel, or the chief administrative officer must be physically present at the meeting location unless it is not feasible due to the disaster. Other members of the public body may attend in person or remotely. All votes must be by roll call, identifying each member and recording their vote on each issue. Standard minutes of all meetings must be kept, approved, and made available for public review as usual. And a verbatim audio or video recording of all meetings must be made available to the public for review. These meetings are public records and must be maintained per the Open Meetings Act. So first, let's have a roll call. So I'm going to go here in alphabetical order. Andre Allen.
Present.
Thank you. Demario Boone.
Present.
Thank you. Shalandra Birch.
I'm here.
Terry Burnside. Christina, I don't know what's going on in your room, so if anybody else shows up, will you just let me know, please? Thanks. Kevin Evans. Allison Galvin.
Present.
Donald Jackson.
Here.
Chanel Hargrave Murray.
Here.
Thank you. Lorraine King. Lee Lang.
She's here too.
Present.
Wait, who's here? I'm sorry.
You went too fast.
I went too
Lorraine.
fast.
Lorraine.
Oh, Lorraine. Hi, Lorraine. Thank you. Lee Lang.
Present.
Tyson Parks III. Catherine Scheidley. Alexander Sierra. Karen Wilson. And Janice Sagardo. I'm here, and Chief Echeverria.
I'm here as well.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'd like to welcome everybody and the media. It looks like WMBD is here. Thank you all for attending. The first order of business is to approve, attached to your agenda was 2 minutes, one for the March 10th meeting, our regular meeting. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes to the March 10th meeting?
I'll move.
Allison Galvin, can we have a second?
I second by Andre.
Andre Allen seconds. Thank you. So let's vote. I'll start with Andre.
Yay.
Chief Boone,
Yes.
Shalandra. Shalandra's here. I'm going to get back to you, Shalandra.
Yes.
Oh,
Sorry.
yes. Okay. Thank you. Allison Galvin,
Yes.
Don Jackson.
I wasn't at that meeting, so I'll just vote present.
Okay. Chanel Hargrave Murray. I see somebody waving their hand. Thank you. It's nice to see you guys. Miss King.
Yeah, present.
Yeah, we're approving the minutes, so I'm guessing that's a yes. Lee Lang,
Approve.
thank you. I vote yes. Okay, so we now have those minutes approved. We're gonna move on to the minutes for the town hall on March 24th. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes that were attached to your agenda?
So moved by Andre.
Andre, and then a second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Lee. So let's vote. Andre Allen,
Yay.
thank you. Demario,
Yes.
Shalandra,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Jackson,
Present.
Chanel, it looks like you're connecting to audio.
Here.
Chanel, I'm getting a little, I'm getting some reverb. Now, you guys have your audio on now? Now she disappeared. Let's see.
Yes, she's good.
Thank you. Lorraine King,
Yes, for Lorraine.
thank you. And I see, well, at least I thought I saw Alex Sierra on. I'm not sure if he's still here. If you're on, Alex, we're voting on the minutes to the town hall. Okay, now Alex says he's having a connectivity issue. I think I'm next. I vote yes.
You guys are right.
Chief? Okay, so the minutes pass for the town hall meeting.
Janice, you forgot me. I approve.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I went right past you. Sorry, Lee. Thank you for pointing that out. So, okay, so, is everybody doing okay? It seems like our hybrid kind of worked. What do we have over there? We have Christina and Lorraine and Chanel. Is there anybody else over there now at the station? Oh, Chief, of course. Did anybody else come in?
Nope.
Okay. I'm gonna move my computer because the sun is coming in here. Okay, so let's start with our unfinished business, which is where we're gonna meet next. I mean, I guess we should have a conversation about my intention was to be there today, but I just came in off an airplane and I wasn't gonna be able to make it. So do you guys who are there? I mean, I think I want to start with them because they're the pioneers here who made it in person. Does anybody that's at the police station right now want to comment on whether you want to do this hybrid next time? And so number one, do we want to do it hybrid? Number two, if so, where? We have talked about, we tried to have our town hall at the wraparound center done at Treewind so that community members could attend. Or we could go at least once to City Hall, because that's where we traditionally held our meetings, to give some new members the opportunity to see what the old meeting room, what the original meeting room looks like. So would anybody like to talk?
I think this space is good. I think it's good for us to be in this space, especially the fact that we are the advisory.
Is there any way we can get you to a microphone? Because I
Tell it that I said we can spread out here.
Yeah, you're spread out. You might,
Sorry.
I mean, let's everybody, I guess I'll mute myself so that you can talk. Maybe that'll help.
Can you hear me okay now? Okay, I think it's important for us to be in this space for the simple fact that one, we are the advisory committee for the police, Peoria Police, and being in the actual building itself, I think that is the best place for us to be. I understand that some people have concerns about COVID, and so we can still, in a sense, have it being both virtual and in person. But if you can, I think it's important for us to be in this space, especially for Chief to be able to, talk to us about some of the things that they have going on here. And then really just being able for the officers to recognize us and know who we are.
Okay, thank you. So that's a vote to continue at a minimum hybrid meetings and to hold some of them at the police station. Does anybody else want to give their opinion? In the past, we talked about kind of rotating them around the community. Andre, I see you've unmuted.
Yeah, I like the hybrid meeting format. I think we should consider a rotation of venues though, because although we are the advisory committee on police and community relations, we are technically a committee of the city of Peoria. And so we just want to make sure that we do have that separation, because I think that's important as we talk about trying to build that trust with the community between and improving police and community relations. We want to demonstrate that we are a standalone committee, just like other commissions and committees with the city of Peoria, whether that's the liquor commission to planning and zoning and so forth. So I think it's great that we utilize that space, and it's an amazing space down there. But I think also too, we should have maybe a couple other common spaces that we can utilize as well too, whether that is Carver Center, Proctor, East Bluff Community Center. And I'm not saying we necessarily need to have, 10 different locations, because we don't want to confuse people. But if we had 3 locations that we rotate our meetings on a quarterly basis, I think that'd be a good way to make sure that we are spreading throughout the city, but then also keeping our identity.
Okay, thank you, Andre. Anyone else like to weigh in on this conversation?
Yeah, from my point of view, until we know what this new strain of COVID is going to look like and how it's going to affect us, I prefer to continue to meet on a hybrid basis. I feel more comfortable talking to you guys. I love you to death, but from my office rather than as a committee as a whole, in some locations. So at least for one more meeting, I'd like to continue to do it on Zoom.
Okay, I think that since we're allowed to do it hybrid, I think that might be a given. The question now is if we have another in-person meeting, what are your thoughts on where it should be? Does anybody else have an opinion about that? Andre'd like to rotate it around. I tend to agree with Andre that.
This is Lorraine. I'd like to provide some input, please. I want to reaffirm what Andre said about this being the police community relations meeting, and I like meeting at the police station. And I think it's important for us to encourage the community to be comfortable coming to the police station, not just for this meeting, but for anything, to be familiar with it, become familiar maybe with personnel here. And I think it's good to move it around, but I think that it's good to be here more than any place else because of our title and because of who we represent.
Thank you, Lorraine. Anyone else like to talk about that? So I think we need a motion on the floor here for where I think we're going to be taking this. I have a feeling one meeting at a time, and things could completely change in the fall if this mutation gets out of control. I think what I'm hearing is we're going to be continuing hybrid, or we won't get a quorum. We need to keep people safe and in their comfort zones. So I think what we need is a motion as to where the May meeting will be held. If we go back to City Hall for one meeting, if we go back to the police station, if we try to communicate with Treewin or East Bluff or Carver Center. I think we need a motion to meet in May. What would you guys like to do?
Janice, can I jump in real quick?
Yes.
I appreciate everybody's comments. I would love for it to continue, at least for a moment, for this to be the home base. And I say that because, what we're doing here at the police department now is really trying to change that narrative of it's us against them. And I want people to feel comfortable coming to the police department. I'm not saying we can't go somewhere else a little bit further down, but I love people to be able to start feeling like they could come to this police department. This is the community's police department. This is their building. And I want the community to feel like it's theirs. Right now, we're out doing, well, we'll be out doing a walk and talk here soon. We're coming out into the neighborhoods. But we, on the flip side of that, we want them coming, we want the community to feel like they can come here and feel safe and be able to talk to officers and see different people. So I just wanted to just put that point out that it's the Community Relations Committee, and we want to continue to build community relations. Part of that is letting people know this is their police department. Doesn't belong to me, doesn't belong to the people in here, belongs to the community. And we want them to feel that and know that and feel welcome to come here and not be nervous or scared to be here. And I think we're starting to change that. And this is just another step towards that. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I think we're the Police Community Relations Committee, and I think if what I'm hearing is that people would like a healthy mix of the two, and correct me if I'm wrong. So I think what we need right now is just a motion as to where we're going to hold the meeting in May. Andre, do you want to make a motion? 'Cause
Yeah,
we have had invitations. We definitely have the fourth floor of City Hall available. We have the police station available, and there's other groups that have given us an invitation. What are your thoughts here?
yes, Dr.
I'll buy donuts. Incentivize you guys to come. How about that?
Shout out to the donuts, but no, yes, Dr. Zagardo, I'd like to make the motion that our next scheduled meeting be held at the Peoria Police Department.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second by Lorraine.
Second by Lorraine. Okay, we'll vote. And I guess if this motion fails, we'll get another motion. Andre,
Yay.
DeMario,
Yes.
Shalandra,
Yes, with the added addition of the hybrid.
hybrid. Okay, yeah, I think that's a given. If I'm gonna bypass the names of the people that I don't see, so if I miss anybody, please speak up. Allison,
Yes.
Don,
If the motion includes the hybrid option as well, yes.
okay, yes, I think it does. Chanel,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
I think I'm last. If I haven't, did I miss anybody? Okay, I'll vote yes then too. So the motion passes. We will hold the May meeting at the police department in a hybrid, with a hybrid option. And we will keep this agenda item on unfinished business until we kind of establish a pattern and figure out what our options are, if that's okay with you. Okay, thank you. Is there any other unfinished business that I missed here that anybody can think of? Okay, so the new business is we have, my term is over in June, and so we need nominations for new officers. So I just wanted to bring that up. We will make the nominations in May and we will vote in June. So does anybody want to take over as chair? I feel like we probably need to be a little organized and have people say a sentence or two about what they want to do as chair or vice chair. Allison, I'm going to have to ask Maz if your term expires too. I don't know. I know my term expires, so I'm guessing being chair expires. So whether we're doing elections for both chair and vice chair, I think I'm gonna need some guidance on that. But if anyone would like to throw their hat in the ring, I am encouraging you to do it. We need some, to define what this committee looks like for the future. We have a subcommittee that is trying to figure out what the vision for the future is for this committee. So I think there's some opportunities to do some interesting things if you are willing to continue to donate your service to the city of Peoria. So does anybody want to raise their hand and say anything? Okay, there is not an overwhelming bunch of hands raised. So I'm just going to let you know that that's what we're going to do in May. We are going to nominate new leadership for this committee. Andre, you're unmuted, and so is Don.
Are we
Got a hand.
making nominations now, Dr. Zagardo?
No, we are telling each other that we are going to make nominations in May and vote in June, if that's okay with everybody. So I just want people to start thinking about what you want this committee to do and whether you want to be a leader on it or not. And if we'd like people to step forward and just maybe you can ask somebody else to nominate you, or I think you can nominate yourself. I mean, we just need some leaders, and tell us a little, maybe a sentence or two about what direction you like the committee to go in, and what you'd like to do. Andre?
No, I was just getting some clarification. I was getting ready to start shooting nominations out, but if we're gonna hold off until May, I'll put my nomination gun back in the holster.
Yeah, I just wanted to start a conversation, see if anybody's interested, and let you know it's coming. Anybody over there in the auditorium have something to say?
Like Andre, I was about to nominate someone as well.
Good, hold that thought. You might want to let them know that you're about to nominate them.
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is we did create a subcommittee to kind of take a look at the ordinance that we have, and decide, kind of look at it and say, what do we want this committee to do? And does our current ordinance allow us to do that? So that Lee, Don, and Shalandra, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to meet. With this COVID, it's pretty bizarre. It's totally up to you. Does anybody want to talk about that, or we can leave it on the agenda for next time?
Janet, at the last meeting, Allison asked a question, and the question was, who mandates this committee? Is it the mayor or is it the police department? Nobody had an answer. So that piqued my interest in my OCDC. So I went back and I decided I wanted to learn more about the original reason why these committees were formed. So I went back and I started with the Department of Justice website, and I discovered that in 1966 there was an article published by the National Police Chiefs Association regarding a pilot program. And this pilot program was being developed because of so many complaints against the police department and police officers. The essence of this meeting was to establish a committee that would meet with the police chiefs and discuss how the police departments could improve their relationships with the committees or with the community, but also how the community could improve their relationships with the police department. Then it skipped ahead until 1977, and in the same Police Chiefs Association magazine, they discussed how the pilot program in Cottage Grove, Minnesota was working. Upon further investigation, I discovered I had asked a question last week as to when, or at the last meeting, as to when the city of Peoria adopted an advisory committee. Nobody seemed to know the answer to that, so I was able to find out that on November 25th, 1980, the City Council of Peoria, Illinois, adopted and passed an ordinance number 10747 that established the Advisory Committee on Police and Community Relations. It was a 9-person committee that was to meet with the police chief in a friendly place, which I thought was interesting, to discuss recommendations for improving police relations with the community and community improving relationships with the police department. That committee, it was a 9-person committee, stayed in effect until 2002. On June 22nd, 2010, ordinance number 1656 amended chapter 24 of the Code of the City of Peoria, which was the ordinance. It added, in the event that a citizen was not satisfied with the complaint process, the committee could review with the chief and make non-binding recommendations. Am I still there? Because I seem to have lost my camera. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, we can see you and we can hear you. Thank
Okay. It also on June 22nd, it increased the number of committee members from 9 to 15, which included a representative from the city manager's office, a member of the NAACP, a representative from the city council, a representative from District 150, 2 under 25ers, and 1 representative for each of the council districts. On July 27th, 2010, the ordinance was amended again, and that was when it staggered the terms. Originally, all the terms were 3 years. But on July 27th, 2010, the terms were now staggered as what they are now. It also determined that the mayor would make the appointments, the city council would approve. Let's see here. In October 22nd, 2010, the ordinance was amended again, and that became 1 year from the date of this ordinance. The chair would be, for the first year, the chair would be appointed. At the end of the first year, the chair would be selected and voted on. And at that time, the city council decided this committee would be reconstituted, which is their word. Rita Ali was chair of this committee until she became Mayor Ali. I believe that was when Rita stepped down, Andre became chair and remained chair until he became city council representative, and then Janice became chair. I'm not real sure on that, but basically that's how it works. Okay. Let's see here. I have to get my dates right. In 2009, the city council, not the city council, in 2009, the city of Peoria, Peoria PD, the Peoria chapter of the NAACP, and the Peoria Ministerial Association entered into meetings with the Department of Justice to work out some issues that they had. They met 3 times in 2009. They met three times in 2010, and then in August of 2010, the agreement was signed. It was a mediation agreement that included 8 areas of city government, along with the community relations and police officer training, all that kind of stuff. So in answer to the question that I had, Peoria, the city of Peoria, has had an advisory committee since 1980, with the exception of 8 years between 2002 and 2010. In October of 2010 is when they increased the membership to 17 members. The home rule is what the city of Peoria is under. So I think in answer to Allison's question, who mandates this, it would be the city manager and the city council. So that's what I found out. So then, in looking at that, I found other articles regarding what the committees were doing, what the intention of the committee was. I found this all very interesting, and I think if anybody out there is really interested in what the advisory committees are doing, I think it would be very good for everyone to start looking into it in other areas, because it doesn't matter whether you're in Salt Lake City, Utah, Greenville, North Carolina, Rockford, Illinois, Peoria, Illinois, Urbana, Illinois, cities in Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio. They all basically say the same thing, and nothing is weighted. It is improving the police relationships with the community, improving the community relationships with the police department, and working on the complaint process if there is one. Now, Since I've been on the committee, and I think my term is expiring this coming June also, so I've been on for a year, there's been no complaints from this committee, for this committee to involve themselves in. According to what the chief has said, since he's been here, he hasn't had any external complaints, and the internal complaints would be none of our business. So I'm thinking that we need to start taking a look at, yes, we're available for the complaint process if it's necessary, but what else does this committee want to do to improve relationships? The police department is doing a really good job right now improving the relationships with the community. They're working really hard. The chief last meeting gave us a lot of suggestions for what we could do. So I think one of the things we need to look at, what are these committees for, and what do we want our committee to look like, and what do we want our committee to do? End of.
Okay, thank you, Lee. That was great. There's only one correction I can make, which is when Rita left, I think I chaired for a minute, then Mr. Burnside chaired, then I think Andre chaired, then I chaired. So that's, which is trivial. It's just to correct the record, but I appreciate all this information you gave us. I see Shalandra's hands up. And just raise your hand, and Christina, raise the hand if anybody in that auditorium. Oh, I see somebody's waving their hand, but is that Miss King? I'm gonna let Shalandra talk. Miss King, can you come to the microphone, because it's easier for us to hear you guys. So I'm gonna let Shalandra talk first. Thank you for giving us that overview.
First, I would like to say, Ms. Lane, thank you very much for the overview and the detail. And I do agree that when you research these committees in other states and cities, they are doing more than just a complaint process. And I think that as a committee, we can move forward and start to do some different things that are part of more of the relations part and less of the complaint part, and getting the community to see that the police department does have some nice things going on. And our community as a whole has some nice things going on. And I think that starts with us maybe being out in the community more, maybe doing some events, maybe going to some events, and just showing our support.
Thank you, Shalandra. It looks like Lorraine has made it to the microphone. I'm going to let you talk, Lorraine.
Yes, just one small correction. Rita left when she became council district at large. That's when she left, before she became mayor. But I just wanted to suggest that we get some input from Don Jackson, because he was involved from the very beginning and he is present. So he has background knowledge on all of this.
Thanks, Lorraine. Don, do you want to add anything, or just?
Yeah, just a couple of things. First of all, my involvement really started when we had the meetings with the Department of Justice. And they came about as a result of my being the president of the NAACP locally at that time, and the state as well. And it came about as a result of young men, especially on the south side of Peoria, but some even on the north end, making complaints about police harassment in the community. Now, at that time, I didn't realize that there had been, until just now, a past history of a police community relations committee. The first time I met with the city, Jim Artis, who's the mayor, a young man from the Department of Justice came into Peoria. Settings guard was the chief of police. And we met in the conference room at the Community Action Agency so that everybody could understand the reason why we called in the Department of Justice. It also had to do with a shooting that took place in Rockford, Illinois, called the Barmore shooting. That got Rockford started with the Police Community Relations Committee. And we wanted to prevent the kind of shooting they had in Rockford to make sure it didn't happen in Peoria. So the NAACP was instrumental in calling the Department of Justice into Peoria to start this process. I can't remember any of the city representatives who were there at the time, even mentioning the fact that they already had a group formed as the Police Community Relations Committee. That was news to me up to today. So it obviously was not an active committee prior to that, and it became active after that. Now, having said all that, I think it's important that we fulfill the original mission, and that was to get the word out to people on the street, people that are not going to come to City Hall, people that probably won't come to the police station, but that they should feel free to come to this committee and register complaints. Unfortunately, even during the time that I previously served, we had very few people that came forward with any complaints. We would still hear them on the streets, but they wouldn't come to the committee, with the exception of just a few people, and air their complaints about their relationship with the police department. Part of that was the requirement at that time that individuals, if they had complaints against the police department, they go to the police department to make their complaints. Well, that was not a workable solution. Or ordinarily, if an individual tried that, he or she went down there without any, and I'm going to use the word backup, and and at that time under settings guard, didn't receive a very welcome reception by the sergeant, the desk sergeant at the time, who took those complaints. So that process was not amenable to what we were trying to do. But you know, I still think there's a real necessity for this committee, but we have to look at it through the eyes of the people on the street. Is it working for them? Not whether it's working for us, but is it working for them? And do they feel at this point in time comfortable with implementing the complaint process? And if so, under what circumstances? So with that, I commend that research that taught me something I didn't know. And I want to reemphasize, was never brought up at the meeting with artists and the chief at that time, and there was another council person there, but I can't remember who it was at this time. But the fact that there was an existing committee and how it was working was never mentioned during those meetings with the Department of Justice present. And we had several meetings after that with the justice there. And that's how we came up with this formula. So it's interesting to know that there was an existing committee, but it apparently didn't work. That's the most that I have to say. I will say this: the couple of meetings that we had away from City Hall were the most successful. Two of them were at Carver Center, and we had an overflow crowd at the center. Members of the commission attended, and our job was to listen to what the complaints were. And people were very open with their complaints at that time. We also met at the Park District's building down on the riverfront. We had a good meeting there. We also met at the Franciscan home over in West Peoria. And again, a good participation, not quite what we had at Carver Center, but still a good participation. But the complaints that came to us were what we generally thought we would have. And I thought that we connected with the people that came to make their complaints. So the moral of that story was we have to take it out of City Hall. We have to take it out of the police department. I don't have any problems with meeting at the police department from time to time. But if we're really going to serve the citizens, we've got to be out where they're at and where they're willing to come and bring their complaints to us. End of story.
Thank you for that synopsis. So what you've learned from the past, what would you like, you've had some time to think about this. What would you like to see the committee do differently to serve the community, I guess, since you and Ms. King might have the longest vantage point on this whole experience?
I would think that every other meeting, for example, should be somewhere in the community and with plenty of notice in advance so that people, A, know why we're there, and B, that there are no rules. If you have a complaint that you want to make, feel free to express yourself, and we'll take it from there, So that would be my recommendation. I always thought that we failed in the past because we had too many meetings on the fourth floor at City Hall.
Yeah, I was new to the committee at that time and just sat and watched, and it's amazing to me how many issues got resolved right there in the room just because people wanted to be heard. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the feeling I got. I got the feeling that people left at least feeling that they'd been heard. I don't know, I didn't do follow-up on it, so I can't say for sure if their issues were resolved. But I think people did feel free to talk, and that was through a couple different chiefs that I was there. I know Chief Marion, and there was another chief before that. Sometimes community members, they actually talk to each other. I know the one at the Gateway building, community members were talking to each other as well as talking to the chief. And it kind of gave them an opportunity to vent, which I think might be useful if that's what it takes to make them happy, is tell people what's on their mind. Is that the impression you got, or did you think things got, I don't think anything got escalated?
Yeah, I got the same impression, but the number of complaints, or should I say the type of complaints that we heard expanded when we went into the community. It was not only traffic complaints, but I especially recall the meeting at the Gateway building. A lot of senior citizens were there, and they complained, about a myriad of things. And so I thought it was good. It was open, and it was a place for them to vent. But they had real complaints. And one of the things I was most proud of, we tried to respond to those complaints. We were not always successful, but because sometimes I had the feeling that, notwithstanding the fact that the city officials met with us, some on the city they were not committed to what we were supposed to be doing. And I especially felt that way about Settings Guard. I never felt as chief that he really thought there was much merit to what we were doing. And so therefore, I don't think he contributed much from the chief's position. So, but those are good meetings when you can see people and look them in the eye, and they can look you in the eye and say, here's what upsets me about city government and the police department. And it's a helpful dose that will help us make our city a much better place.
Yeah, I agree. I was hopeful that these Zoom meetings would increase access, but I just think people are so zoomed out and sick of being on Zoom that it's not.
Well, and there's so many people don't have Zoom or have the
I know.
capability or know how to get on it.
Exactly. So I think it's, I'm just trying to get out of the sun here. Sorry, guys. I gotta move my computer over here somewhere. Yeah, so I think that's why I really like some creativity in getting these meetings scheduled out into the community so more people can attend. And I do appreciate that, we have a new chief, we have a beautiful police station that people should feel like it's theirs. So I think a healthy mix would be a good thing of attendance.
Right there, right there.
Hi, it's Chanel. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I had a thought. Have there ever been subcommittees based off of districts? For example, we would be the core group, and then we would go out and create subcommittees based off district 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in those subcommittees, I think if we had it that way, we would be able to have a larger reach. So with the subcommittees, we could start to build those relationships within the community with the officers. And then we collectively would come back together and do bigger town halls and things like that. I think that would assist with the reach. So we don't have to do just one event at a time. We can have subcommittees based off of the district. For example, your neighbors come together, create something within your neighborhood, and then we collectively come back together, discuss what all of us are doing, and then create a larger town hall meeting. It's just thought.
If you can recruit more people to get involved, I'm all for it, listening. I don't want to end up, my chief likes to talk about silos. I don't want to create more silos, but if you can create more participation in our community, I think that'd be a win-win for the whole community. So I
Okay.
think that's a creative, I mean, we're looking for creative solutions and creative ideas. So
Okay, most definitely. Do we have someone that's on the marketing, that's doing the marketing for the advisory committee?
I think you might have just gotten that job if that's.
Okay, I do it every day anyway, so. Okay.
Shalandra, do you still have your hand up or is that, did you want to?
It's Lorraine at the mic now.
Okay, Lorraine.
I know we had the big turnout for the meeting at Carver. The reason we had two is because the turnout was so good and people there say you need to do this again. It was the first time a lot of people could vent and feel safe. They were in a safe environment. But another thing that contributed to that is because at that time they had just started the residential police program and the residential officer was there to speak and they received great accolades. So I think that we have to go out into the community more than once so that people know that it's not just a passing fancy, that is something that's for real and let them, and so they are not afraid to be heard. And then when that happens, they will pass the word and people will get involved, but we do have to make ourselves visible. And I think that probably some way we could assist the chief as he goes door to door, with officers talking to people. Maybe we could accompany those officers sometimes. So I think that they're all good ideas. And I just think that we need to just keep the momentum going that we have, especially with under the new direction of the new chief.
Thank you, Lorraine. Anybody else like to weigh in? So we have a couple creative ideas. I think I'm going to continue to push to have some meetings out in the community. Right now, we're just COVID restricted. I do think that the police station's easier to get to and park at than City Hall for sure. So I think that's something new we're bringing. Having satellite committees, members out in the community would be great if we can get more people committed and involved. Andre, you're unmuted. Does you want to talk?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I like Chanel's idea. I think there could be possible opportunity for us to maybe attend either some neighborhood association meetings or some homeowner association meetings in the respective districts that some of us do represent on the committee, and then those at large could still go to some of those meetings. And then if we gather information of potential complaints or grievances or anything like that, then we can bring that back to the greater good. And then also too, that helps with some of this PR that I think our committee needs and just us getting the word out more. So I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Andre. Let's see. I see Christina's hands up. So I think someone in the station wants to talk.
Yeah, it's me.
Okay.
Yeah, I love all the ideas I'm hearing, but I would encourage everybody. Again, we are doing these walk and talks. It's just not the police. We have invited the NAACP. We have invited the school district. We have invited the clergy, the park district. Everybody is part of it. And more importantly, this group should be part of it. We're going out every Thursday. This is an opportunity. The library is part of it. They want to come out and bring out information, introduce yourselves, let them know who you are, let them know how to contact you if they do have a complaint. I'm okay with that. The community should know that. But I think that's the job of this community, this group to do that. We're out there, we're giving out resources and giving out information and introducing ourselves. And they're talking to us and they're sharing their concerns with us at their doorstep. They ask us to come in. Before we even started these, I have at least another 4 communities, areas in the city that want us to come out into their neighborhoods. We can't keep up with the request. So this group is invited and I think should be out there where they can knock on the doors with us and introduce themselves and tell them what this group is and hand out some information, right? An email, a phone number, whatever that may be.
You say every Thursday? Is that what you just said? Did I
Yep,
hear?
we've shared this information. It's on social media. The media's put it out as well on the news every Thursday through for 9 Thursdays in a row. So last Thursday we were out in the rain and the cold. I froze, and so they're out there right now. They'll be out there next Thursday. I'll be out there the following, I think through June, the first week of June, I believe. So I think it's a great opportunity. Everybody doesn't have to show up. Whoever can show up, we put the locations of where we rendezvous, we meet, we divide our groups up, and everybody gets together and we walk the community and say hi and just introduce ourselves. This is an easy one, and I like Chanel's, at her point, yes, I understand that I talk about silos, but when you talk about these groups and these different areas to then bring the information back, that's great, where we can figure out what's the issue in these areas and what we need to go back and look at and figure out. So that's just my 2 cents. I think it's a great opportunity for this group to jump on board.
Okay, thanks. That sounds interesting. And I encourage committee members to participate and, let community members know we're here and we want them to talk to us and let us know how they're doing. Okay, would anybody else like to talk about that? I think, is the subcommittee going to continue? Is there something else the committee wants, that the whole committee wants to learn from the subcommittee? Really, my question is, what does this committee want to do, and can we do it given the ordinance that we have? Do we want to change our mission statement? Do we want to leave things? Are we content with the way they are, with the way things are going?
Well, I will say that, one, I think the committee has done a good job of being active. Even with what we did last month and with the panel and the resources and the things, and the committee has done a good job of being innovative the last couple of years. Although it's outside of our original scope, and that is, hearing grievances from our citizens. And so I do want us to applaud ourselves for that and not necessarily beat ourselves up too bad. I think the chief makes a good point of us attending some of these walk talks and disseminating some information about the committee. Because again, the more we can get ourselves out there and let people know our true purpose, then not only will we get to our original purpose, that is hearing those grievances that citizens have, but then 2, then we can combine that with some of the already good work that we're doing, and providing resources and opportunities and shining light and creating awareness around several issues in our community.
Shalandra, did your hand go up again? Would you like to say something? Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to go back to my original statement. It's time to just start working on the relations part of what our committee is. So I just wanted to go back to that part of my original statement.
So just for what I'm hearing, that would be a change in focus from the complaint orientation of the committee to, I'm
just basically summing up what was said after. I mean, we get the complaints part, yeah, that's part of the committee, but to get the relations part and let the community know that we exist. I mean, I believe some people may know, but if we're out there in the community doing the relations portion of what the committee is supposed to be, we may get some more information, and we're showing that we're a part of the community and we're supporting the community. I think that's the portion that we're kind of glossing over a little bit. for lack of a better word.
Just so they trust us and feel that they can come to us. I think that's a good point. Anyone else like to talk about that? Lee, you have your hang up?
Yes, I do, because one of the things is, hold on just a second, my phone doesn't know I can't talk right now. Okay. Going against, I mean, not going against, but with what Andre just said and what I've heard from Mr. Jackson, this committee was not the created purpose, from what I can find in the ordinances, was not created for complaints. It was created, it says the Advisory Committee on Police Community Relations is hereby created for the purpose of advising the chief of the city, the mayor, and city council on matters concerned with improving community relations and to provide an independent means of communications and assistance between citizens of Peoria and the Peoria Police Department in order to foster a positive working relationship between the community and the police. Then it goes on to say, in the event of a complaint that is brought to the attention of any member of this committee, the member of this, and this is in the ordinance, the member of such committee should encourage the citizen to bring the complaint to the police department and cooperate with the police investigation of it. The member, meaning committee member, shall not become involved in the original investigation of the complaint. That is the created purpose of this, is to improve relations. I don't have a problem with us talking about complaints, about having the community bring complaints or talking to the community about complaints. But if this is all this committee is going to talk about, I think it's unfair to those of us in here who seem to think that we can help the community build relationships with the police department. You know, I, for one, totally am an advocate for neighborhood watches. That is the best way, I think, to improve relations. I'm kind of disappointed that on the items that the walk and talks are doing this 9 weeks did not include the neighborhood watches. But I was busy doing this, so I didn't have time to get with Simone and the neighborhood services to get some information on neighborhood watches, which is something that I would like to do because, you know, but there again, our created purpose on this community, or this committee, was to offer recommendations to the police department to improve relations with the police department and the community, and work with the community to improve relationships with the police department. Complaints came next. I mean, in the order of things, nothing is number one. They all work together. And so I agree with Shalandra. You know, there's more we can do. That's it.
Thank you, Lee. Okay, someone in the auditorium has their hand up.
Yes, Lorraine. I don't
Thank
disagree with anything that's been said, but if you're going to work with the community to build relations, you're going to have to listen to complaints. The whole thing was precipitated by complaints. I remember when I was younger, the police were not your friend. So, you know, I had to go through a lot of changes and interactions and engagements to get to where I am now. So complaints come with it, you know, and I'm not saying that we are just a complaint commission, they come with it. So that's just part of it. The other thing I think we can do a good job is also letting the police know that we support them. Even though we have adverse experiences from time to time, we still need them. And so we need to let them know that.
Thanks, Lorraine. So what I'm hearing that in order to get community members to come to us, we need to get out into the community. The chief has given us some opportunities to do that. Let people know we're there, we're here for them to talk to. So we can have a win-win relationship to support the community and the police. And that we'd like to get more of our meetings out into the community. Let's see, there's another hand up in the auditorium, and then Shalandra.
So just for Lee, thank you for that comment. We will be looking at the neighborhood watch. So what we're waiting for is we are going to be hiring here, hopefully in the next several weeks, we will be putting this out. We're just waiting for a couple of things, is a safety network manager. Along with that will be a police community engagement coordinator. So I need somebody to be able to get out into these neighborhoods, to talk to these groups, to form groups, to get neighborhood watches put together. So it's on the radar. But again, once we get this personnel in place, this will be another opportunity for this group to be able to obviously network with them and be able to really get out into these neighborhoods more intentional and more direct, if you will.
Oh, thanks, Chief. That sounds like a creative solution. And I think those are the kinds of things we on this committee want to hear about when you give us your police updates. That sounds very creative. Let's see. I forget who I said. Shalandra, I think, is next. And then I saw some applause hands also.
I just wanted to offer maybe a suggestion or idea. Would it be helpful if we showed the other committee members what other communities who already have police community relations, what they have been doing aside from the complaints? Would that be something that would be helpful?
I'm all ears. I mean, if we can find anything that works, if we can improve relations and reduce complaints and make the community safer and healthier and happier, I'm all ears. I think that's a fantastic idea. Lee, thank you, Shalandra.
I just have a comment for the chief. Chief, you have my email address, you have my phone number. I volunteer to do anything I can with the person that you put on for neighborhood watches.
Thank you, Lee. I know you're always available. I appreciate that. If anybody doesn't know, Lee's been on every promotional board that I've had, from the assistant chief and the captains. So she's been part of that as well.
Lee has gotten dirt under her fingernails. She is going to roll up her sleeves and give us some good information. So thank you, Lee. Okay, so the next item under new business is in June, we're going to have a conversation on that House Bill 5319 that Chief shared with us. And the good news here, this is the bill that creates the Peoria Co-Responder Pilot Program in the Illinois Municipal Code. And we have lined up right now, just to share with you guys, as a sneak preview. We've got our representative, Gordon Booth, will attend, and then the doctor at Methodist, and I just forgot his name, he agreed to attend. And I think, Chief, we're going to have a roundtable on that. And
you got to update that now. It's HB 1095. It is no longer that number. So just so you have an update on that.
that explains why I had difficulty Googling it. I ended up, I had to go back to an old Google because I ended up with something about something
Well,
else.
it's in the Senate now, and it should be hopefully being signed soon. And I'll give you that update when it's my turn again.
Okay, Lee has her hand up. Lee, would you like to say something?
No, I'll put it down.
Okay, thanks. I don't want to miss anybody, so please holler if I'm missing you. Shalandra raised a point in the chat about our satellite committees as to whether they'd have to be approved. But I don't know if we're there yet, but it's something that we need to consider if we are creating satellite committees that go into the community. It could be that we just talk to people and nothing's really formal, but when the people start flooding our gates, I think we'll have a conversation about whether they need to be approved by the council. So that's a good thought. It's good to consider every angle here. Okay, so yeah, so that's going to be in June. We wanted to wait, well, first of all, for people to be available, and second of all, perhaps for the bill to be passed. So we're not talking about a possibility, but something that's really going to be implemented. Okay, so Chief, it's your turn to give us the updates, but let me ask Christina, before I get to you, do we have any citizens who came forward to approach the committee tonight that you know about?
No, I didn't receive any.
Okay, thank you. And then, Chief, I do also want you to talk about these new positions that you've got, that you just alluded to, and then the complaints, but also someone, and I can't remember who it was, said that there have been no external complaints since you became chief. Would you verify that? Is that a true statement, or was that just none were?
Yeah, there's been some little complaints, but nothing was found. Yeah.
Okay, so nothing
I
was,
can't say it was zero, no.
it was not zero. Yeah, I didn't think it was,
There's
but
been some that come through, but it was nothing. It would get, I'll have the internal affairs lieutenant or whatever it was.
okay. Can you come to the microphone? Because it's your turn to talk and we can't hear you, please.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was zero. There might have been some minor complaints that came through that didn't end up in anything. We've had, it's my turn, right? I got the mic now? Okay.
Yeah, I think the previous chiefs used the word sustained, and
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's the
there-
terminology they use. So if were any sustained?
Yeah, there hasn't been any sustained that I'm aware of. Now, we've had some internal complaints that we've dealt with that have been different, right? So external complaints are another thing.
There's an interesting article that I read about the correlation between sustained, so were the internal complaints sustained? Because I think we didn't used to hear details of anything, but all the complaints. There's some research that shows that over time, amassing sustained internal complaints might lead to behavior that's
Right. So we
Under-
obviously want to monitor what kind of complaints come in and who's getting the complaints and how many times a complaint will come in on a particular officer, if you will. So yes, so you're talking about early detection of issues that may be forthcoming. I could tell you there's been really nothing, even with all the things we've been doing lately. And I was going to speak on that one when it's my turn to talk about. Especially like our director patrols that have been going on.
okay. Thanks. It's your turn to talk. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay. Can you pull up that PowerPoint? So while Christina pulls out the PowerPoint, I'll talk about HB 1095. Yes. 1095. So I obviously this was something that I brought to the state rep. And how we respond to mental health and what we need to have in place to do that. Really looking at a more equitable way of dealing with the issues of mental health. I can tell you we've had over 1,300 calls related to suicide last year, because I was just looking at some stats, because I've been working with Unity Point, obviously, on this as well, and ERS. And so there are some staggering numbers. And as we go through and pulling these numbers for the data, we need to make sure that we are responding appropriately or not responding at all, if you will, and having mental health workers respond instead. So we're looking at different categories of response as we work through this, the policies and procedures that we're going to put into place. And at this point, as it is looking, we'll be getting several $1 million a year to push this co-response model, which will have licensed social workers, master's level social workers working in the police department, both in juvenile and adult investigation side. So it's going to be great. It's going to be a really a different way of dealing with some of the numbers that we're seeing, but getting people to help versus putting a Band-Aid on it, if you will. So that's that. I wanted to share, hold on, let me share a screen here with you guys. If I pull it over there, what they see? Do you guys see that? Do you guys see something on the screen?
Yes.
All right. If I move that, now do you guys, how do I, okay. I stand a little bit. There we go. Can you, okay, you guys can see that? You see a graph on the?
Yes.
Yes, we see two graphs,
Yes.
something in between. We see, yeah, it's kind of doubled up. Yeah,
So, hold on, it's a little technical difficulties. Here we go. This is what I want to show you. So this is a comparison of year to date. We started this anti-violence, anti-gun initiative as of January 1st. So just to compare, I have the stats up through April 7th. That was when we had our last SNET meeting. So the numbers changed a little bit, but not much. We'll have a couple more victims of gunshot victims from this last couple of days. But what you see here from last year in 2021 compared to this year, we're seeing our numbers are going down. We're down about 58% shooting incidents. We're down 56% shooting victims. We're down 50% shooting murders. Well, that, yes. And we're down 14% all murders. And you see that our shot spotter alerts, we're down to 352 compared to 408. Rounds fired, we're down 1447 from 1702. Shooting incidents, which means somebody was hit by gunfire, are down to 14 from 33. Gunshot victims are down to 16 from 36. Homicides by gunshot wounds down to 3 from 6. Total homicides were down 6 from 7 last year. Recovered weapons, this is kind of important when you look at this number. Why is it down? Well, they don't know when we're out there when we're doing these initiatives, but they know we're out there, so they're not carrying these guns in their vehicles as much, which then leads to less drive-by shootings, right? And stolen weapons, we've recovered 9, same as last year, year to date. Now, we're not celebrating because we still have numbers, right? We'd love to be at 0, but we are seeing the trend of the numbers going down, and that's what we want to see. We want to be able to control at least some of these shootings that we continue to have in the city. There's some other surprises coming, and I won't talk about that. We've got some other things that we've implemented that we'll put in place, and we will continue to hopefully see these numbers go down. I was gonna that one. There it is. So this one, what I want to show you here, since January 5th, we've had 9 directed patrols. In these 9 directed patrols, we've had 365 vehicle stops. So when we talk about complaints, where do we see the most complaints, right? There's interactions with police. Out of these 365 vehicle stops, we've had 0 complaints. And I meet regularly with the NAACP president. He has my direct number. I have his direct number. He was just in the building yesterday in a meeting with me as well. He's received 0 complaints. The ACLU's received 0 complaints. My lieutenant, internal affairs lieutenant, has received 0 complaints. And I haven't heard from any of you guys calling me about complaints. So there hasn't been any complaints on these. But we're making great strides. Our numbers are going down. But that also tells me that our interactions are good interactions. We're not the complaints that a chief mostly gets, for the most part, the bigger complaints are the way an officer spoke to me. The officer was disrespectful. He said something, or she said something. And so we're not getting, and we'll hope to continue this as goes this way. We're not getting any complaints. On the contrary, what I get a lot of is I get a lot of thank you letters that come in the mail. I get a lot of emails. And if you follow our social media, you see the comments that are there. So we're trending in the right direction. And this is why I say, when I keep hear the word complaint and police, when we're not getting the complaints that maybe people think maybe once we're out there, we're not getting those complaints. Will we get a complaint at some point? Of course, the odds are it's going to happen. And we will deal with that. We will not shy away from that. And we will deal with the complaints as they come in. But we've been very open, and we've shared where people can go file complaints. And so we're trending in the right direction. And I'm very hopeful it will continue this way. And at the end of the year, we could all celebrate if the numbers are better than last year. And that's what I hope we can continue to do. But if you're paying attention in the news, you're seeing these staggering numbers all around. I mean, who just said, I think it was Normal Bloomington or Bloomington just is the chiefs over there dealing with some things as well. So we're seeing the issues, but our numbers are trending in the right direction.
Well, that's good news. Chief, what is directed patrol? That's not the same as a traffic stop, is it?
No, the director of patrol means, so you'll see, let me go back. So for example, personnel, that means in these 9 directed patrols this is a direct enforcement. These are days where the officers get together, our state and federal partners will be with us. The airplane may be in the air, may not be in the air, from state police. And it's a concentrated effort to be in these areas where we show the data shows that the crime is occurring, right? We know when we show up and there's 30 rounds on the ground, we know this is where we need to be. We know where our shot spotter alerts tell us we need to be. So we continue. Part of that as well is when you see our tip 411. We've had this year 171 tips come through tip 411. In the past 30 days, 55. Tip 411, again, to remind you, is an anonymous tip line or text line, if you will, where we can text back anonymously. And the amount of tips that come through here and it's led to a lot of great closures of some cases, including some homicide cases that the detectives have been working on. So it's a great tool for us to keep people anonymous, and they can still share information and we can talk back to them as well, anonymously.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to close this out. Can you close that out for me? I'm sorry. So when we talk about community engagement and relations, one of the bigger things that I continue to hear about is panhandling complaints, right? I have a certain person who will remain nameless. Every day I get a text from sending me pictures of people who are panhandling. It is unconstitutional for me or the officers in this police department to go tell somebody they can't panhandle. I can't do it. I can't tell them, you got to get out of it. You can't panhandle. It's unconstitutional. Can't do it. We've talked to the state's attorney. We talked to and so it's unconstitutional. We understand that. What we could ask people is very nicely, and my directive has been to the police officers here, is if you see somebody in the middle of the street who could potentially get hurt, ask them nicely if they would be so kind as to move to the side of the road where on a sidewalk and continue to do their business. And you know what? I've been out there, I've asked people, and they've been very nice, and they move to the side of the road, and they move to the sidewalk where they can be safe. And that's what we do. And if they tell us that they're not going to move, okay, we're not going to do that. Our officers aren't going to get in a confrontation for that. Like I said, it's unconstitutional. We cannot do it. But it's deeper than just that. There's some human trafficking concerns. There's some other issues, right? We talk about mental health. There's a lot of underlying issues. So we are I've been working with Joe. There's a group called Lula, the Public Works. We're looking at putting up some signs in the intersections that say panhandling and soliciting is dangerous here, right? So maybe we could have the people who are driving by not stop in those middle of the road areas and cause an accident, because that's really the concern. But that then also applies to those groups, the baseball clubs that want to come out there, the firemen that want to be out there with their boot. It's dangerous in that area. It's dangerous for everybody. We can't pick and choose somebody because of what they look like to not have in an area. And I just want to make that clear. But this is another area of engagement that we are working on, to work with these other social service agencies, the Center for Prevention of Abuse, et cetera, and how we get other resources in place so people aren't in a dangerous place because they need to collect money for whatever reason it may be. I think that's it. Did you have another question for me, John? I know you mentioned a couple of things in the beginning, and I think I talked about the House bill. I talked about this. We don't have any current complaints, And I think that's all I got for you, unless there was something else that I missed.
Well, would anyone like to ask anything of the chief here? I thank you. Thank you for your report. It's, yeah, I want to hear more about these two positions that you're applying, doing, but we could wait till next meeting. It sounds like you
No,
have
I could tell you about them. So
engagement coordinator and something else, unless
Yeah.
anybody else has a question.
yeah, I can. So hold on, let me pull up my notes on this real quick. I on my phone. So the safety network coordinator, so the mayor and a group of community stakeholders, we've been meeting for months now on how this safety network, this is the mayor's program, the safety network of different organizations within the city and what we're going to help fund as anti-violence initiatives in the city. So the safety network coordinator or manager is really what it's going to be, will be the hub here at the police department of all these resources the city has where we can connect people to them. Now you got to, and then what did I tell you the position with? This is a new position, is the community engagement coordinator will be working right alongside that position to really coordinate those other efforts and figure out who is who in the community, who has what resources, how do we connect them to the people that need them, right? Really trying to get away from those silos and have a place for us to kind of manage that and make those connections. But this also falls in line with our co-response model where we will have social workers working in the police department as well to follow up, touch on every domestic violence case we have, every juvenile that comes in, get them right at the beginning so we don't see them back in here and get the resources. So I give an example. We have a mom, the juvenile that comes in for whatever reason. We bring mom in to come get her juvenile, is able to sit down and talk to the social worker. Why is this occurring? Why did this happen? Is this an isolated incident? Is this something that's continued to occur? Are there some resources that we need to get this family so this behavior doesn't continue? Is the child stealing so he or she can feed themselves? So do we need to get food there? Do we need to have somebody have furniture? We need to get housing for somebody, right? We don't want to see the juvenile come back through here. And we want to have some restorative measures in place to deal with that. We want to keep people, and this is the police saying, we want to keep them out of the criminal justice system. And so that's what we want to do. On the flip side, when we have, for example, a domestic violence victim who continues to fall into the circle of violence, because that's what we continue to see, then what can we do to interrupt that as well? And does this person need to get a driver's license? Does this person need a social security card? Does this person need to figure out where their birth certificate? How do we continue to help that and facilitate all that with all these pieces that we will have in place? We are also going to be hiring an attorney that will be working in the police department that can help facilitate some of these other things as well. So there's a lot coming here. We want to put different things in place. This is not the same police department that it was at one time. We are putting things in place to create these restorative measures to keep people out of here and continue to create great relationships with our community.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Did anybody have any specific complaints, questions about complaints, or was that summary good? Number one, and number two, does anybody have anything else they'd like to put on the agenda for next meeting? You can raise your hand or. Okay, that being said, does anybody have any items for the good of the cause? I'm looking at you, Andre. That being said, Andre, you unmuted?
No, I don't have it. I don't have anything to add. Just great meeting and great information. And as always, good seeing you all.
Okay, can we get a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Who was that?
Can we
Christine.
interrupt for a second? Ms. King,
Yes.
you want to say something?
I would just like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Christina for
Oh.
facilitating our participation.
Thank you.
I am pretty impressed that we pulled off a hybrid Zoom. That's an impressive feat. Thank you very much. Thanks, Lorraine. And Thanks,
You
Christina.
can pull off a lot of things.
I've seen her do it. Yeah, I'm emailing her at the last minute with 1,000 questions. So thank you very much. Okay, so we got a second by Allison. So we're going to vote here. Andre? We're voting to adjourn, if anybody lost track of that.
Yep, yay.
Demario,
Yes.
Shalandra,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
I just lost it here. The Chanel,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Chief?
I was gonna say no, but I'll say yes.
You wanted to hang out with us all night. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. I think we're gonna make it better each time. And if you have any ideas for the agenda, just send it to me. Thank you. Good night.